Good morning. Good morning. So, this morning I want to come on and talk about a time when, in my abusive relationship with my ex husband, of when he was hitting me. And I want to tell you what I've learned since then. So, the time is about 9 o'clock at night when this happened many, many, many years ago. And I'm sitting on the couch. I'm holding our 1-year-old daughter. My husband comes in and I smile up at him as I'm holding our daughter, and I'm like, shh, because she's sleeping, and the next thing I feel is a sore eye, and it's where he hit me, fist just right in the eye. I didn't say anything. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. And I knew that if I actually said anything, that the beating would have been worse anyway. So I just kept quiet. I really tried hard not to draw the attention to our child because I didn't want him to accidentally or even on purpose hit him or her, excuse me. Didn't want him hitting her. And so he's hitting me and he's hitting me. And I end up covering my child as I'm sitting on the couch, mind you, and I'm covering up our child. And I go like this, and he's hitting me on my shoulders, hitting me on my back. And I can't move because I'm trying to protect our daughter. So I end up laying her on the couch, and I'm hovering over her so the blows don't hit my body to hit her type deal. So there's a big gap between my child and him. And he's hitting me in the back of my head, he's hitting me on my back, on my shoulders. And it's everything I can do not to just drop from the beatings that he's given me because I don't want to hit our daughter. And I look up and there's blood coming in my eyes. I've got tears coming down, silently crying. And I see our 5-year-old daughter on the stairs with our 3-year-old son. And they're just staring at the incident. And I gasped because I really didn't want them seeing that. And he looks up and he sees the kids, and it's like a veil had lifted from his eyes, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it. And he sees the children. He stopped hitting me. And pushing past the kids on the stair, he goes upstairs to our room. Now, I'm going to give you some facts now. I don't know if you know this, but there's 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime, and I'm one of those. 7 men will also experience domestic violence. There's a woman that is beaten every 9 seconds. 9 seconds she's beaten in the United States. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior that's used to establish power and control over another person, normally through fear and intimidation, and it's often including the threat or use of violence. In my case, it was both. There's other terms for domestic violence, which includes intimate partner violence, battering, relationship abuse, spousal abuse, or even family violence. Domestic violence and abuse can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter what your race is. Doesn't matter what your age is. Doesn't even matter what your sexual orientation is, your income. It does not matter. And both women and men can be victims of domestic violence. And a lot of times, men are overlooked because they think, oh, they're a man. They don't have to, take that from a woman. Well, I hate to tell you this, but there are men that are raised the right way and they don't hit women no matter what happens. And they stay for different reasons. It could be the kids. It could be that he loves her and he doesn't know, maybe he's hoping that she'll change. I can't tell you what men think. But men can be victims too, even though they're also less likely to talk about it. But it does happen. There are more than 3 million children that witness domestic violence in their homes every year. Let me please repeat that. There are more than 3 million children that witness domestic violence in their homes every year. And children who live in homes where there's domestic violence also suffer abuse or neglect at high rates of 30 to 60%. And I didn't want that for my kids. I didn't know any of these facts until after I was divorced. So let's go back to the story. So here it is years later. My son is now 17. I had divorced the ex and I had remarried, and that boy is troubled. Oh, he isn't. But I don't know how to help him because I couldn't help myself even then. He's been in and out of trouble since he was 7. I'm talking, he was a violent boy. He would take a kitten and put it in a pillowcase and hit the kitten up against the wall. He would take a baseball cap and he'd start a fire on his rug. I mean, he did a lot of bad things. Not that he was a bad kid, it's just that he didn't know how to express himself. And I didn't know that he didn't know how to express himself. And I didn't teach him because I didn't know how to express myself. So he's a very violent child at 17. It's just getting worse. He's hit me. He's called me bad names. And I've tried everything. And I've asked anyone that I could think of to help my son when he was growing up. I've tried the police. I've tried school. I've tried counseling. But no one would help. No one would help. He ended up going to jail. I think it was for 6 months or so, but still he went to jail. Which probably was a good thing because it really changed his outlook on things. I'll tell you all that later. I was going to tell you the future now, or the present now, but I won't. So here's some more facts. Without help, boys who witness domestic violence are far more likely to become abusers, which means they'll continue the cycle of violence in the next generation, and so forth and so on. And without help, girls who witness domestic violence are more vulnerable to abuse as teens and adults. Sometimes they become pregnant because of the fear of, if you don't give me sex, I'm going to leave you. Sometimes it's just what they witnessed, so it's nothing new to them. They'll go ahead and they'll do it. My then 1-year-old daughter turns 19. She marries a violent man, has a son by him, and that man is violent to both her and their newborn child. It's a scary world out there. Oh, excuse me. So here's some more facts. Girls and young women between the ages of 16 and 24 experience the highest rate of intimate partner violence, almost triple the national average. And I'm telling you this because I want you to be aware. Even if you've never been abused, you may know someone who has been, even though they don't talk about it. Only 33% of teens who were in a violent relationship ever told anyone about the abuse. They're scared. Sometimes it's more of embarrassment than being scared. 81% of parents believe teen dating violence is not an issue, or they don't admit that they know that it's an issue. People, wake up. It's 81% that teens that are dating a violent person, it's an issue. You don't want that for them or their children, which will turn into your grandkids. And here's another fact. Did you know that 82% of parents feel confident they would recognize the signs of a child was experiencing or they're dating abuse? 82%. Where do you fit in that? Do you feel confident that you would know signs of abuse if your teen child was dating? I didn't, and I was abused, and I still didn't recognize it. There's 58% that said they could not identify all the warning signs of abuse. So let me ask you this. Do you know what the warning signs are? I didn't know this one, but jealousy is one. Yeah. Being jealous is a major, major warning sign. You want to be aware of that. If they have a controlling behavior, if there's quick involvement, like they want to move in or they want to have sex within a quick time frame, that's considered a warning sign. Isolation, that's a big one. I had that with my ex, and I didn't realize it. My friends would always tell me, oh, you can do better than him, you can do better than him. But that's not what I heard. What I heard was, you're not good enough for him. Even though that's not what they said, that's still what I heard in my head. And so my ex, he would say, "Oh, honey, you don't need your friends. You've got me. I'll be your friend." And so I was isolated. Eventually, it became isolation from my family too, over 3,000 miles, by the way. So I am one of the 82% of parents who was confident that I would recognize signs if the child was in an abusive situation. And as a parent, I knew that when my 19-year-old daughter had gotten married and I saw the violence that was going on, I tried really hard to make her see what she was doing, but to no avail. She didn't want to hear it. She thought I was trying to ruin her marriage, like I was told about my best friend trying to remind. At least that's what I heard. And again, I did not associate that with my daughter not hearing what I was trying to tell her, and it put a gap in our relationship for a long time. So now I live with the fact that I have now an 8-year-old grandson who is angry all the time. He's so angry because that's all he lived with. Now, don't get me wrong, my daughter and him did eventually divorce. And when they did, they would bounce the child back and forth 1 week with one parent, 1 week with the other parent, back and forth. And the two never agreed on how to raise that child. So now he's very angry. So this is my story. And I am that young woman who held her 1-year-old daughter while I was being beat. And no matter how many times he hit me, I did not know that there was any help out there for me. I just thought that my situation was normal because I didn't know any better. You see, I grew up with an abusive mother and stepfather. So to me, my first marriage, it was normal. It was just routine. It just was. My then 5-year-old daughter is, well, I probably shouldn't say her ages, but I will. She's now 32. She is married and has one child of her own, a little girl. And she knew that what had happened with me and her siblings, and she married a man that is great and wonderful to her and her daughter. And he's never hurt her. He's never done anything. It probably helps that my now current husband probably threatened him. What dad wouldn't, right? So my son is now 30. And he has 2 little girls of his own. Going to jail helped him as he had to take all kinds of classes, including anger management classes, and he's doing really well now. My youngest daughter is 28. Not only did she divorce her first husband, she is now married in a much better relationship now. She has 3 boys. And yes, so it makes me now have 6 grandchildren. So my son has 2 girls. My oldest daughter has 1 girl. And my youngest daughter has 3 boys. Oh, my stars. So yes, so I do have 6 grandchildren, 3 of each, which is amazing. I love that. But it's hard. It's still hard on my 8-year-old grandson because he goes back and forth between his dad and his mom. And they're both been remarried. And I pray every day that God touches his heart, touches his parents' hearts to realize the damage they're doing to that little boy. So I come to you and I ask, if you know anyone who's in an abusive relationship, give them to call a victim or abuse hotline number or email if they don't want to talk to someone. Because sometimes you can't tell them that what they're in is abusive relationship because they're going to probably hear, you don't want me to be happy, or you think that I'm not worthy of this man or female or whatever the case is. And sometimes they're scared of the threats that are made against them or even their children, and it's hard to leave. I know for me it was hard because my ex would always threaten to kill himself. And he kept saying, well, if I kill myself, my blood's on your hands. When that stopped working, it went to killing my kids and me and him. And he said what he would do is he would kill all of us and then himself and make it look like I had killed everyone. Or he'd kill the kids and himself and make it look like I killed them. So yeah, the threats are real. And I was scared. And so if you find someone that's scared, don't punish them for that. Stand by their side as long as you possibly can because they need you. They need to see that what they're living is not normal. They need to see what love really is. And if you can give unconditional love to one person or more that have been abused, that is all anyone can do. Just stay by their side. Don't push them. Whatever you do, do not push them out of a relationship. It has to be on their terms when they are ready. And God help them if they are. Sorry for my clock going off in the background. So I ask each one of you here that are watching, that are listening, help change these facts. Speak up, speak out, and help make a difference for victims of domestic violence. And you're probably wondering, oh, what can I do? Well, here's some things that you could donate goods. Shelters are always in need of clothing and shoes and games and school supplies and other materials and stuff for kids. And all you got to do is just contact a local shelter to find out what they need. So donate whatever you can. Maybe you can volunteer. That's a good thing to do too. Volunteer. Find out if your local shelter allows volunteers to come in and work with adults and children. Volunteer your time. Sometimes just reading to a kid is all they need to realize that there is a difference out there. And definitely talk about it. So often needs are overlooked, not because people don't care, but because they aren't aware. So if there's communities, excuse me, so if our communities are not aware of the great need that exists for children, maybe through the programs and shelters, how can they be expected to make any change? So it's time that we educate ourselves and others about the far-reaching effects that domestic violence has on the entire family. Not just kids, not just adults, but everyone that's involved. So you can contact your local city for domestic violence prevention, child abuse prevention. You can also do what I did and Google how to prevent domestic violence. I live in Oregon, so I did it in Oregon. And I found a Children's Trust Fund of Oregon Foundation. What's it called? Ford Family Foundation, just to name a couple. So there are many, many more out there. So I ask, please speak up. Lending a helping hand, volunteer, donations, whatever it is that you can do. Please help. Thank you so much for watching. Remember that God loves you, and so do I. Have a blessed day.